Okay, this is Devlog week 2. Not as much got done this week for Untitled garden game about flipping tiles into place. So things I got done were version control. I have it hooked up, I have the files for the game just hooked up to a GitHub account, so it'll track any changes, and I can work on 2 different computers. So that's fine. That's helpful because then I can now try out bigger, I could try more difficult things to implement, and if I totally burn it to the ground, I could just reset. Also, I changed how I made an array system for adding new object types to the game. So when I have the garden and I'm adding objects into the game, I used to have to hard code what each type of object did in like 3 different places in the code. Now I put that all in an array when the game starts, and adding new items takes like no time at all. Hi, cat. Cat's here now. Meow. Get on the get in. Look, it's cat. Okay. So that's better. It's kind of a behind the scenes thing. I could put it in like an external file, like a comma separated whatever, but I don't think I'm going to do that with this one. I don't think I'll need that many different options. The garden size is adjustable, so I had it hard-coded to be a certain size. Now I can adjust that when doing the level creation in-game. I made it so there's a separate save file for each room. Just had the one, which was just called garden save, so no matter which room you went into, the garden maker process would bring in the same thing, but now I can actually make it separate for each level and have their own save file, so I can actually just use that as a level editor and then take out the level editor object and it'll still load the right things, and I can just use that instead of having to like externally make notepad files and then having the game learn how to read that instead. So there's 2 gates in each level that I'm going to put, and one is the gate you came from, so if you don't want to finish the level, you can go back out that one, which will be by the start, and there's a gate at the exit, which will open if the path is complete and you're on the final stone, because there might be situations where you complete a path, but you can't literally walk to the end, which I don't want that to be a valid solution. So it detects if you're at the last stone, and then it'll open the gate and spawn whatever other end of level stuff, like if there's an animation that things do when you complete the level. But right now, all it does is then open the gate, which you can then walk through and go back to the main world. So I got that working. And I have it now where when you enter a new level, after it spawns in all the garden stuff, it then takes the player character and puts it on the start tile of the level, which before it would just spawn in like the upper corner of the level, regardless of what the rest of it looked like. So I'm happy with that. That's all I got done. Next things I want to work on are, currently there's no collision on a closed gate, so you can just walk into the gate and then leave the level. Like walk around the outside of the level. I don't want that, so I have to make sure the system I have for colliding into things works for that. I might want to do a new animation system. Currently the only things with animation are the tiles that flip over, and in that sprite file I've just put every type of animation it might do and hard-coded in like a series of frames that I want it to go through depending which way it's flipping. And there's going to be other objects that have moving animations later in the game. And so I'm thinking what I might do instead is create a sprite for each type of animation. And then when the game detects, oh, it needs to flip this way, left to right, it'll find the sprite that does the left to right flip, put that one in, animate it like normal, and then go back to the static sprite when it's done. So that way I can make custom sprite strips for each different kind of animation and just call it real quick, as opposed to having to tell it which frames to go to specifically and having to remember which one's left to right, which one's right to left, which one's up and down. I think that'll be easier going forward. If I can get that up and running now. Also an options menu, I just haven't done that yet, so I figure I might want to start getting that kind of framework in place. A word I can't read, looks like the word graft. Oh, the grant. So part of why I'm making a game like this is there's a grant for underrepresented developers to make a grid-based puzzle game, and I've applied for it, but I won't find out for at least a week, if not 2, when they pick who's going to do it. So hopefully that'll fund the development, and if not, I'll probably keep making it in, my nights and weekends. So that'll kind of, that's just the thing I'm thinking about. And it'll also, if I get that grant, then I can pay artists and sound designers to make stuff for the game instead of working on my own stuff or having to do like a Kickstarter or something to fund the art pass. Because right now everything's just placeholder. And the other big thing I have to do at some point, I don't know if I'll be able to finish it next week, but I want there to be an undo and restart system. I think I talked about it in the last video. But basically, the only way I can think to do it is every time you make a move, it has to store the entire state of the level, which isn't that much information, I think. But I have to make some sort of file system for storing that for every move you've made until you leave the room. So that way you can step-by-step undo everything, as well as having to restart where it just puts you where the game, where it would have been as if you just entered, which that one's easy. It just has to read what the garden should look like when you load in and put you back at the start. That's easy. But having to remember every single step you did along the way and then go back, that's harder. But doable, because tons of other games do this, and if it's not in the game, it's going to be way too frustrating, because lots of times you could just be screwed after you do a move, and then to have to restart the whole level would just be the worst. So I want to do those things. That's it.